Hey there, everybody. Uh, I'm back. I believe today would be day 21 of my designing my mental health journey. Uh, I have been very sporadic in releasing, posting videos over the last week or so. Um, and the reason for that is because it's been a struggle. And I've been continuing to do lots of things to, try to help myself recover and trying to manage my symptoms and things. Um, and those are all helpful, but on the days that I haven't been posting videos, it's most likely been because it's been, the days have been challenging. So, as I mentioned in one of my last written posts, I ended up getting the COVID shot, and I don't think my system was necessarily ready to handle that. And I feel like my immune system was already extremely compromised by the time I got it. I mean, I don't regret getting it, uh, knock on wood, at least right now, but uh, my body did seem to have a very serious reaction to it, and it actually wiped me out for about 3 days once it kicked in. It wasn't immediate. I'd say it took a day or two for it to kick in, but once it did kick in, um, my body had a really strong reaction to it. So um, the pain actually got to the point where I started to take CBD oil, and it actually worked quite well. And I'll just quickly say that if you have any preconceived notions about what CBD oil is or what it does or anything like that, it doesn't give you any kind of a high or anything like that. It basically helped me to manage those pain symptoms while my body was in response to the COVID vaccine. So, the I'm still making assumptions here in terms of what's going on with me, just out of necessity, I guess. But I definitely seem to have a strong response to that. Anyways, thank goodness, I seem to be a little bit on the mend from that piece. The CBD oil did help a lot, and I think it's actually been helping me to sleep a little bit better. When I do sleep, I seem to be having a little bit, some nights I seem to be having a little bit more of a better sleep. Anyway, it's been again interesting couple of days. I've been taking in lots of information, and as per usual, and it's been an interesting process thus far, I have to say. And I'm I'm experiencing some things that I'm pretty sure would not necessarily be happening if it wasn't for this part of the process, if it wasn't for putting myself out there, in this way. I've had an incredible amount of self doubt in association with it. I've questioned myself daily as to whether or not it was a good idea, whether or not I should be continuing and that kind of thing. Um, but I will say, I think ultimately, I'm still glad that I made this decision. I'm not sure how it's going to impact me in the future or anything like that, but I'm starting to find a strength in facing my fears and coming on here and talking about this stuff and I'm hoping that this continues, but I'm starting to release some of my fears around doing the things that I feel are important to me and putting things out there, that I think are important for us to talk about and stuff. So, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback in terms of other people who are struggling with, similar issues and that kind of thing. So, if nothing else, if it becomes a platform for my own, personal growth, and I help other people along the way, well, that would be phenomenal. I would call that a mission accomplished, because that's what my whole goal was here from the beginning. I want this to be about a journey of recovery, and I want it to be, beneficial and helpful, and informative, for other people as well. So, so far so good with that. I really appreciate the support. There's no words can describe, and I will, pause for a second and say this. No words can describe how important it is to have support as you go through this stuff. And before I recorded this video, I actually did a video about the whole Meghan and Harry interview, and I talked about, how we really don't need people, to validate our experiences, and I firmly believe that. I think that we get very caught up sometimes in, especially when you're, suffering from self-doubt, or when you're a people pleaser and stuff. You have a tendency to spend so much time concerning yourself and consuming energy, worrying about what other people are going to think or say or do, or, how people are going to respond and stuff. And, yes, I'm constantly warning people about, and asking people to exercise some caution and, responsibility, personal responsibility, when it comes to what you put out there. Um, but at the same time, even though it's not necessary for people to validate our experiences, it really matters when somebody does, and that's, I guess, the point that I wanted to make about that, is that, that's why the support is so important. That's why, we all need, a sense of connection and a sense of belonging, and a sense that, somebody gets where we're coming from. And, for me, whether it's coming from one person or whether it's coming from 100, it doesn't matter. What matters at the end of the day is that, you do feel like you're connecting with people, and, you're making a difference. And that's what my goal has always been. So I wanted to talk briefly about, uh, what some of my experiences and thoughts have been around the whole mental health issue, because I want to make sure that, besides, as I go through this process, besides, sharing information about myself, and how my journey is going and what's happening with me, um, the even more important piece to all this for me is about trying to educate people, and, share information in terms of what this is like, so that people can get a better perspective, and hopefully, better be able to understand. So, um, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is, people may have, this belief about, people who suffer from mental illness, and what that means, as far as their character is concerned, as far as their habits are concerned, as far as their, attitudes and stuff are concerned. And one of the things that I want to make sure that people understand is that suffering from mental illness doesn't necessarily mean that you're constantly remembering, thinking about, or focusing on the past. Um, that can play a role in mental illness. Obviously, it does on some level, especially if we've suffered from adverse childhood experiences and stuff, Um, but it's not, I don't think it's like people just consciously go around thinking about this stuff all the time. It isn't like that. So I think what's more important to realize about mental illness is that, for the most part, I've come to understand that it's the subconscious pieces that are coming into play. It's the patterns that you're not necessarily aware of. It's the thoughts and the beliefs that you come to hold about yourself, and the things that you've carried with you, emotional baggage, that you've carried with you throughout your life. And not just that, but there's chemical things. There are things that I won't say we don't have any control over, but in the moment, sometimes we don't have any control over. And the chemical imbalances is one part of that. So, uh, my experience has been that, throughout my life, I when I've gone to counselors before, and I had a counselor tell me, at one point when back, years ago, when I was diagnosed with depression at one point after my separation from my husband at the time, um, the counselor told me that, you know, my brain doesn't necessarily function in a normal way, and that is because of the childhood experiences that I did have, in relation to trauma and things like that. So, when your brain doesn't, necessarily function in a healthy way, that can impact you physically, in a really big way. And so, I don't believe in allowing any of this stuff to rule my life. It's just about, a lot of times it's just about a recognition of what the facts are, and learning how to, you know, change my lifestyle or change my habits, uh, in a way that helps me to balance those chemicals better. And I think that that's across the board. I think that when our um, when our body is giving us signals that something is wrong, we really need to pay attention. So one of the things that I've recently come to recognize, and I mean over the past week, has been, I now believe I may be suffering from some kind of issues with my thyroid. And that's not being a hypochondriac. That's just about recognizing some of the symptoms that I've been having, and, knowing that stress has an impact on your body in ways that you don't even understand. And so prolonged stress, obviously, is going to impact us in really negative ways. And so it's interesting. I'm not going to stay stuck on this point, but one of the things that I wanted to say is I've had this pain and discomfort in right around here in the bottom of my throat, um, for quite a long time now. And, it feels like it could be, digestion related, because, if I eat anything after 5 o'clock in the evening, and sometimes it can even be earlier than that. But when I go to bed, I get this, pain and discomfort here in the bottom of my throat. And it's only been over the past week that I've been having some discussions with my friend and neighbor, that I started to think about the whole thyroid issue, because, there's a lot of symptoms that I'm experiencing that could be related to that as well. So, I mean, again, I don't know. I'm not trying to self diagnose here, but I am trying to learn to start paying attention to what my body is trying to tell me. And I think that that's a really critical piece of the self care thing. So, this is why I'm trying to have these conversations, trying to educate people on things to watch out for and stuff, because I think, especially as women, we have such a tendency to deny ourselves and deny our experiences, and, charge through stuff and just keep pushing. And I think that there's a lot of danger in that. Um, Chronic stress and stuff can, lead to heart disease. Like, these are some serious things. Apparently it can even, change the way that your blood clots and your, blood cells and stuff. Like, I mean, these are really serious, sometimes can be life threatening issues. So, I really hope, people are watching and paying attention, and starting to kind of pick up on some of this stuff, because I had no idea how bad it was getting until it basically took me out. So, the chemical imbalance piece is a big one. Um, One of the parts of the recovery process that I'm trying to tackle as well is about identifying and working on your beliefs that you hold about yourself. So, when I went through the Sedona method video, and I watched that several times, and I started to realize just how much I was impacted by some of the experiences, that I had in my childhood and stuff, and who that made me. And I mean, again, it isn't always about a negative thing, like I developed a lot of strength. I took a lot of positive things away from those experiences. But I think it's important to, begin to recognize and acknowledge some of the emotional baggage that you carry with you, as you've moved throughout your life, so that you can hopefully, get rid of those things, and improve them for yourself. And that's what this is about for me. Um, it's also about identifying and recognizing patterns of behavior, people, situations, and circumstances that are not serving you in a healthy or positive way. And so, that's been a real that's a learning curve for me. I'm really starting to try to pay attention to, a lot of things that are, or that could be impacting, me, or even my children in a negative way. And that process is challenging. It's, sometimes you have to remove yourself from people, from situations. It could be a conversation, but learning to recognize things that are toxic, and not helpful, is and not healthy, are really, that piece is really important. And so that's been a part of this process for me as well. It isn't always easy, but I'm learning more and more all the time about how important it is to honor yourself, and you know pay attention to what you feel like is right for you. And sometimes it might even just be that you need to do it temporarily. um, you know it's not about it's not that changes that you feel like you need to make in the moment have to be permanent. Sometimes it's just about taking a step back and, reevaluating things. I think that that's really important. So, just a couple of other pieces. Um, I have been dealing with a lot of things outside of this process for myself. I hope people, don't think that I'm sitting around focusing on myself all the time, because that's certainly not the case. And there are some things that have been taking my attention away from this process as well. Um, you know, I've I've had to I've wanted to spend, some time focusing on my kids, and, trying to work on those relationships, and trying to help them out as well. Um, and that's obviously extremely important to me. But, you know, uh, it's one of the reasons why, there have been some days that I haven't been recording videos and stuff. But that's it. That's life, right? That's what it looks like. So, hopefully, um, I'll be able to continue with this process as well, because I do feel like it's been beneficial for both myself and other people. And, I really want to keep sharing information and stuff that, that helps, and helps keep people informed and stuff. So those are important things to me. Anyways, if you have any, questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, please feel free to share. And, I love the fact that people are continuing to reach out to me, and, having discussions about what they're going through, and, you know, providing support for one another throughout that whole process is really important, and really, I greatly appreciate it. So thank you for that. So that's about it for me for now. I will, like I said, continue on with this process, and continue sharing, whatever information I can. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.